DOT cylinders. An important part of the dispenser operator's job is to be able to recognize various types of propane cylinders and understand their markings. This will help to ensure that the cylinder is suitable for filling. Most propane cylinders in service today are manufactured according to Department of Transportation specifications and are commonly referred to as DOT cylinders. Small, portable cylinders are filled at various locations and are used with hand torches, plumber's pots, gas lanterns, camp stoves, barbecue grills, and on many recreational vehicles. Larger cylinders are typically filled at a facility and delivered to industrial, commercial, or residential customers. Common elements of DOT cylinders. Cylinder bodies are most commonly made from either aluminum or steel. Every aluminum or steel cylinder has a foot ring. It is used to protect the bottom of the cylinder body from damage and also functions as a support stand or base. Openings for valves and fittings are located in the service end of the cylinder. The number of openings depends on how the cylinder will be used. Portable and exchange cylinders usually have one combination service valve and pressure relief valve screwed into the top of the cylinder. Vertical cylinders with 4 to 40-pound propane capacity must be fitted with an overfilling prevention device, or OPD. OPD cylinder valves are distinctively marked and equipped with a unique hand wheel in the shape of a modified triangle. OPDs should not be treated as the primary means of preventing overfilling. It is still the dispenser operator's responsibility to close the hose end valve when the proper filling level has been reached. Some existing cylinders are not required to be fitted with an OPD. These include cylinders used in industrial truck service or mower applications. Cylinders manufactured prior to 1998 and designed for use in the horizontal position. Cylinders used for industrial welding and cutting gases. To protect the cylinder's valves, a wide metal band called a collar is welded to the cylinder body. Collars often incorporate handles for lifting and moving. Cylinder valves should never be used to lift or move a cylinder. Cylinder markings. Markings are required by DOT and are the ID card for the cylinder. Markings must be legible and clearly and permanently marked on the collar or cylinder body. The markings include the cylinder specification design code, service pressure, cylinder tare weight, water capacity in pounds, the manufacturer name, and test or requalification date. The cylinder must be identified as a propane cylinder before filling it. This chart shows all of the acceptable design codes for propane cylinders. Refer to the textbook for additional information on the entire cylinder marking requirements, as well as a table listing all the specification design codes for propane cylinders. Cylinder capacity is marked by the pounds of water it can hold. The tare weight is the weight of the cylinder when empty and includes the weight of the cylinder valves but not the filling hose and nozzle. Cylinders with the same water capacity can have different tare weights, so each cylinder should be treated individually. All refillable cylinders must be requalified at regular intervals. Requalification is normally not handled at dispenser locations and should only be performed by trained individuals. When reading the original date or requalification markings, a date without a letter indicates the next requalification must be within 12 years. The letter S following the date indicates the cylinder must be requalified within 7 years of the marked date. The letter E following the date indicates that requalification is required again within 5 years of the marked date. The most recent requalification date must be marked on the cylinder. Cylinders that are out of qualification must not be refilled. Rather, they should be marked and set aside in a designated safe area. Knowing about cylinder construction, components, and markings will assist you in safely refilling your customers' cylinders. Pre-fill visual inspection. DOT regulations require a visual check before a small cylinder can be filled or refilled to verify that it is fit for continued service. Prior to inspecting a cylinder, remove any plastic or paper sleeve so you are easily able to spot any problems. After inspection, if any of the following are found, the cylinder must not be refilled and should be marked and set aside in a designated safe area. Problems that prevent refilling a cylinder include cracks or leaks, bulging, serious denting or gouging, defective valves, defective interface seal of an OPD valve, defective or leaking pressure relief device, damage to the cylinder valve, valve protection, and cylinder foot rings, evidence of physical abuse, fire or heat damage, or excessive rusting or corrosion, out-of-date requalification. Steel cylinders subjected to fire must be requalified, reconditioned, or repaired by the original manufacturer or a DOT-authorized repair facility before being placed back in service. Aluminum cylinders subjected to fire must be permanently removed from service. Cylinders set aside because of defects identified must not be refilled unless the cylinder has been properly repaired or replaced by a trained and qualified service technician. Contact your propane supplier for assistance. If you encounter a cylinder with X's over the DOT specification number or marked condemned on the shoulder, collar, or head, do not refill. Instead, mark and set aside in a designated safe area. Valves and accessories should also be inspected prior to filling. They should be checked regularly for signs of aging and wear. You should never look directly into a relief valve opening to inspect it. A mirror can be used to safely inspect the relief valve. Valve accessories may become broken or lost, allowing dirt or moisture to enter the valve. Inspect and replace any faulty or missing dust caps. Valves may also be damaged through improper cylinder maintenance. For example, service personnel may fail to use the proper brushes around cylinder openings when painting them. As a result, gauge faces, weep holes in filler valves, and discharge openings of relief valves may be blocked with paint. If you find a blue-green stain on the brass portion of the cylinder valve, the cylinder may have come in contact with anhydrous ammonia, which is often used to manufacture illegal drugs. If you encounter this situation, you should set the cylinder aside in a designated safe area and contact the local fire or police department. Purging. In order for equipment to operate properly and to keep customers safe, both new cylinders that have not been vacuum purged by the manufacturer and those that have been opened to the atmosphere must be purged of air or moisture before filling. If air or moisture enters a propane cylinder, it can slow down the filling operation, create unusually high service pressures, cause regulator freeze-up, or cause fading of the odorant in the cylinder. Contact your propane supplier to make sure you have the appropriate equipment needed and that all purging is performed in a safe location. Purging cylinders with propane vapor. When purging cylinders with propane vapor, it's important to note that the steps involved may vary depending on your company's policy and the type of equipment installed at the facility. Always consult your supervisor for more information. Using propane vapor to force the air out of a cylinder is an effective purging method that is often used at refilling stations. Cylinders should always be purged in an approved area where there are no ignition sources. Follow these steps to purge cylinders. Step 1. Connect the vapor hose to the cylinder. Ensure that you have the correct fittings installed when connecting the vapor hose to the cylinder service valve. If the service valve on the cylinder does not have a female POL opening, Attach a cylinder service valve adapter to the POL adapter that is installed in the vapor line hose end valve. Securely tighten the vapor hose assembly to the cylinder service valve. Step 2. Pressurize the cylinder with propane vapor to 15 psig. With the service valve closed on the cylinder being purged, open the service valve on the purging cylinder. Gradually position the ball valve on the vapor hose to allow propane vapor to vent into the cylinder being purged. If no leakage is detected, open the service valve on the cylinder being purged. Observe the gauge on the purging manifold until the pressure reaches 15 psig. Step 3. Bleed off the pressure in the cylinder. Gradually position the ball valve on the vapor hose to vent a small volume of propane vapor and air until the pressure gauge reaches 0 psig. During this bleed-off process, be very cautious as a small amount of propane vapor and air will be released. To prevent ignition, venting should be done at least 25 feet from any open flame, smoking area, portable electric tools and extension lights, and at least 35 feet from any metal cutting, grinding, oxygen, fuel gas cutting, brazing, soldering, or welding. Step 4. Repeat the purging process. To be sure that roughly 97% of the air has been purged from the cylinder, continue to pressurize and bleed off the pressure in the cylinder at least 4 more times. Leave the vapor return hose connected until the final purging has been completed. Then, repressurize the cylinder to 15 psig. Close the service valve on both the purging cylinder and the cylinder being purged and check the cylinder for leakage. Never purge with liquid propane. This may cause the liquid to flash into vapor, chilling the cylinder and condensing any moisture vapor on the walls. In addition, only a small percentage of the air will be removed. Cylinder labeling. DOT and OSHA require specific labeling for all cylinders. Cylinders used to transport propane must be clearly and durably marked with the proper shipping name and hazard class. Cylinders used in industrial applications must have additional warning information. In addition, a consumer information or warning label must be on all portable refillable cylinders of 100-pound propane capacity or less. Be sure to apply an appropriate warning label if the original manufacturer's label is not present or clearly legible. Cylinder loading and transporting. Prior to returning the cylinder to the customer, be sure the cylinder valves and fittings are protected against damage while being transported. Cylinders must also be fastened securely in a position to minimize the possibility of movement, tipping, or physical damage while in transit. It is important to recognize the difference between horizontal and vertical cylinders. They are typically marked to indicate which position they are to be stored and used in. In the event that the relief valve needs to vent while having liquid in the valve and the cylinder is not positioned properly, the situation can become hazardous. Closed-body vehicles, such as passenger cars and vans, are limited to a maximum of 90-pound propane capacity, with no single container having a capacity of more than 45 pounds. Verify with state and local codes, as they may be different. In addition, check with your supervisor to determine if it is your company's practice to distribute safety information to customers when cylinders are filled. Conducting a cylinder pre-fill inspection, purging a cylinder, labeling a cylinder, and preparing a cylinder for transportation enables you to safely serve both your customers and your company.